kind that they did it to Jesus. They actually did it with a thick belt that was actually designed to split your back when they hit your back. Paul says that he's gotten this punishment, the 39 lashes, and they only gave you 39 because I was more merciful. If they gave you 40, they were being unmerciful to you. So 39 lashes. He's had this happen to him 5 different times. Anyone do the math here? 5 times 39?
195.
Thank you very much. 195. So if this thing is designed to actually split your skin, how many scars does Paul have on his back? How many lines? Why would they do this to him, by the way? They would do this to him because he claimed that Jesus was Lord. Oh, Paul, you can't say that because that's blasphemous. That's heresy. So because he said Jesus is Lord, they gave him this lash 5 different times, Paul says. So at this moment, now we know one thing about him. He's turned his back and he says in this passage, look at my back. His back is mangled. Verse 25, 3 different times I was beaten with rods. The Romans beat you with rods. And they did this for insubordination and sedition. See, this is not a rod like, a little twig that you go outside and you, don't disobey me again. This is a rod designed to break every bone in your body. So they would actually throw you onto the ground and they would begin to beat you until they were certain that they were walking away from a person that was unlikely to get up and walk away and unlikely to ever say the things that that person had said. What was the punishment? What was the reason he was being punished this way? He said, Jesus is Lord. The Emperor Nero, who was emperor during the time when Paul was killed, we believe, was an evil man. You want to know how evil this guy was? Fell in love with a girl. Some of you know the story. His mom says you can't marry her, so he killed his mom so he could marry the girl. Then set the city on fire, blamed it on Christians, and later set Christians on fire, invited people to a party. And this Emperor Nero, you couldn't say Jesus is Lord because he is Lord. When Paul says Jesus is Lord, they take him and they beat him with rods. How many times was that? 3 times? And this is not during the time when there's orthopedic surgeons that can put your bones back together with pins and so on. So if they've broken most of the bones in your body 3 different times, Paul now has 195 scars on his back. Can you imagine his limbs are probably all kind of crooked and his legs are, I have just one. Like one, only one defect. Shelley would argue that. My wife would argue that. We don't have a perfect marriage. She has lots of problems too. This will be our. Is this getting broadcast somewhere? Can you edit that part out? Mountain biking a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, in the hills next to my house, I was trying to keep up with a bunch of young college students. Mistake. I fell over the handlebars of my bike and I broke this bone right here, which they call the collarbone, but I actually call it the universal bone that holds everything together. Because if you break it, you can't do anything. This hurts if you sneeze, breathe, laugh, move your mouth, chew, whatever. It makes it hurt. It was horrible, and the thing was sticking out of my body like this. And I went to the emergency room, and they gave me ibuprofen. You know what ibuprofen is? Do you have that here? I asked for morphine, and they wouldn't give it to me. If there's any physicians here, can someone explain to me why, if there's a bone sticking out of your body and you're asking for something to ease the pain, they give you ibuprofen? So the bone didn't heal right because I didn't do what they told me to do, which is basically you wear a bra for 3 months that holds your back like this. I didn't do that. I didn't think I was manly enough. So I didn't wear it. And as a result, my shoulder healed wrong. And I have this, Shelley calls it the step. Steps down, and then my shoulder's a little bit, don't stare. You're all going to be staring the rest of this. It's actually, this shoulder, Shelley thinks is about half an inch to an inch shorter than the other one because of my injury. It was a minor thing. has had possibly every bone that you can break with a rod broken, and he's probably got more than just a little step there. He's got deformities. You want to know what else he says? He says, once I was stoned. A stoning is not stoned. This is something you're like, oh, what? He was stoned? That was a punishment? No, this is capital punishment. They didn't stone you by the way, till they were tired of throwing rocks at you. They stoned you until you were dead. There's two ways that you would die in the ancient Near East. One was, if you made a claim like Jesus is Lord, the Jews would say, well, you have to die now because, no, that's heresy. You can't say that. If you said that, the Romans didn't like it either because Caesar is Lord, so you have to die either way if you say Jesus is Lord. By the way, what happens here in New Zealand if you say Jesus is Lord? Is anything? Try it at your office tomorrow. Walk in and like, Jesus is Lord. Someone's going to run you through with this, or no, sir. The president is Lord here in this country. Nothing happens to us. Nothing happens to us if we claim Jesus. So maybe Pastor Davies, maybe Stephen, a little persecution would be good for the church. You think? So the stoning was a capital punishment that the Jews would give you. You know what the capital punishment that the Romans would give you is the crucifixion. The horrific science of torture. It was the most sophisticated way to make you die with the most pain and the most humiliation and the most horror. And crucifixion was, you died naked with everyone watching you lose control of your systems, and you died in shame, and you died slowly, and it was horrible. You know what's amazing when you study crucifixions is that such an object of shame, such an object of hatred, God took that and redeemed it. And the cross is actually a symbol of hope now. I mean, it's as bad as the other day on one of our highways, someone flipped me off. It's the universal Jesus may love you, but I don't sign. No? Think of it that way. Like that sign somehow gets redeemed and eventually someday becomes a symbol of hope. Like that. I mean, God can take anything and redeem it. God can use anything, and God can use us, and God can do that with the cross. So, this is the Roman capital punishment. The Jewish way is to stone you. Why? Because Jewish people are more merciful. They don't want you to die slowly and in shame. They want you to die quickly when a stone hits you. So this is the way I always envision stonings. They would stand around in a circle. They would have prayer, opening prayer for the stoning. No, maybe not opening prayer, but they would stand in a circle and they would all grab a rock and they would throw it at you until you were dead. Well, that really doesn't make any sense, because if you're standing across from Frank and Frank has bad aim, he hits you, that's problems. Now, a stoning was more like this, according to Josephus. They would actually find a high place to throw you off from. Let's do it right here. Can I come over here? And then they would, Douglas, how are you? Okay, let's say you are Paul. They would find a high place like this, maybe 7 to 8 feet off the ground, and then they would take boulders this big, and they would throw them at you until you were dead. Now, Douglas, if I'm throwing a boulder this big at you, what do? What's like your first instinct? Watch, here's a rock coming at you. Rock, 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 rock. Actually, do something, not talk, like do something. What's like the first thing you would do? Do it. Go. Whoa. Oh, run away a bit. What if you had nowhere to run? Come on, play along. What if you had nowhere to run, Douglas? It's coming at you. How do you protect yourself? Yeah, perfect. That's what I want you to do to begin with. Excellent. Yes. You put your hands up, don't you? And then the rocks begin to land, or you protect your head. But the first instinct that we would all have is to protect our head, put our hands up. Wouldn't that be it? So imagine boulders landing on your head and on your... They probably crushed Paul's hands and his wrists and his arms. Do you know why I believe that his hands were crushed and his arms were completely just a mess? It's because Paul was an educated person. And yet he had a scribe that would do his writing for him. Except for one instance. In Galatians, at the end of Galatians, Paul says, look, with what big letters I write to you. You see Paul one day saying to Tertius, the scribe, no, let me write this part. And grabbing with his claws now, these mangled up hands, his fingers grabbing and writing, look, with what big letters I write to you. Here's what I believe. Now, this may be like the point where everyone says this guy that came from California is a complete heretic, but I believe this happened. I believe that a stoning is capital punishment, and I believe that they actually took Paul out and that they killed him. This is what the book of Acts says. This is from Acts 14, verse 19. Then some Jews came from Antioch and Iconium. This is the story of how they stoned him. And won the crowd over. They stoned Paul. They stoned him. I mean, it's like they stoned him, so they killed him and dragged him outside the city thinking he was dead. I assumed he was dead. But after the disciples had gathered around him, he got up and went back into the city. Number one, they gathered around him. I think his disciples actually resurrected him. I think they prayed over him and they brought him back to life. And he comes back to life, and what does he do? What would you do? It's okay. You can. What's wrong with Paul? Is he insane? He goes back into the city. What would you do? I would turn and run. I'm alive. Run! They're trying to kill us. I think I would. What is wrong with Paul? My God will provide all your needs. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my own countrymen, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false prophets. I have labored and toiled and have gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have gone without food. I have been cold and naked, and as if all of this was not enough, besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all of you, the churches. So I worry about you every day on top of all that. My God will provide for all your needs. But he writes this to his people. And he also says, rejoice in the Lord always. How, Paul? How can you do this? My staff, the church staff that I belong to, they're all very well-educated people. They had a good art education. And Stuart Tyner, who's been here many times, often brings a piece of art and he talks about it, and everyone just knows what he's talking about, just nods like, oh yeah, that is blah, 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 and they use all this language to describe the art. And I don't have any of that background. I didn't grow up with all this beautiful art and all this stuff. I grew up with, here's a crayon, draw something. That's like the art I know. So over the years, I've been trying to participate in all this stuff, this conversations about art, and for years I actually just made stuff up. When Stuart would show us a beautiful piece, a beautiful painting, I'd go, well, that looks like pre-Raphaelian, Frankfurtian, Shabumalist, Navian art. What do you think, Stuart? And for a while, Stuart would look at me like, I've never heard any of those terms. And eventually he understood, you're making stuff up. Just stop making stuff up. And he began to give me a real instruction in art history. And so I began to actually study some of the art. And I know what I like now. I know what I like. I like real stuff. I like, people and scenes. I don't like the stuff that has, a note